the veteran and active duty home buyer program because to me, there's a lot of misconceptions out there and there's a lot of things that people don't know. Real estate agents don't know, sellers don't know, but then a lot of veterans and active duty. And so it's very shocking to me. And just to quickly go through it, one of the major things that I think a lot of people miss is that one of the biggest benefits of using a VA loan is that you can do up to 100% financing. I mean, if you want to put money down, you can put money down, but you have no mortgage insurance and you get below national average rates. Typically, they're usually very similar to FHA interest rates, but FHA loans, because they're government backed, government insured, both FHA and VA. But FHA loans have pretty high mortgage insurance, which is, anywhere from, actually, I'll put it this way. When I bought my house, the loan officer that helped me buy my house messed up really bad. And I couldn't use my VA loan. I had to switch it to a conventional loan. And so I spent for 2 years, every month, I spent about $325 a month in mortgage insurance.
Jeez.
And last minute, I had to sell off some stocks at a loss to be able to come up with the 3% down because he waited to tell me until it was pretty much time to close. It was very frustrating. It was an interesting experience. There were reasons why, but to me, the VA loan, the biggest benefit is, hey, I can keep money in my pocket and I can buy a house. And this is why whenever I've talked with people about building wealth with real estate and buying multiple properties, veterans typically or active duty have the best benefit. Because if you look at, the big debate right now with a lot of home buyers is, should I keep my money in the market, in the stock market, or should I use it to buy a house? Because in the stock market, I'm getting a 10% return on my investment, but buying a house is a larger amount, and I might be getting 3 to 5 to 7% return on the larger amount. Which one's better? And there's a lot of debate. Well, if you're a veteran or active duty or even reserves and you want to use your VA loan, you can keep your money in the market and do 100% financing and buy that house. So I say that too, because I know a lot of people who have built a lot of wealth. I'm talking, they're currently selling off a lot of their properties and doing a 1031 exchange to something larger. One of them, it's his net worth. So loans minus, equity is $3 million. The other one is about $8 million. The $8 million, he's bought 8 properties in the last 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. He always buys when it's not a crazy hot market too. He doesn't want to have to compete a ton. And he just, if he feels like he can financially handle it, he handles it. Some of the biggest misconceptions though that people have is that the VA benefit is not keeping the VA loan, it's using the VA loan to buy the house. And I mean that, and I say that specific, it sounds like the same thing, but a lot of times people will use their VA loan and think, well, I have to sell that house or refinance it to conventional before I go get another house. That is not true. I've had people even, maybe they have a 3% VA interest rate and they want to sell their house to buy another house, but they don't want to have someone assume their loan because then they think that their VA benefit is tied up in that house, and that's not the case. So someone can assume your loan if the lender allows it. Most of the time they're supposed to, theoretically. I've heard some that don't, but there's reasons why. But they'll allow them to assume your VA loan at a lower interest rate. It's no knock on you. You can still go and use your VA loan to buy something else. You can use your VA loan multiple times. There is a VA funding fee, which I believe is getting reduced, is what I just heard. Did you hear that too?
I heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a benefit, definitely.
Yeah, because if you do use it again, it gets pretty high. Because you can do loan amounts, up to the millions, where most people are pretty much capped at the conforming loan limits, which is 800, I think it's like 824,000 something, might be 826. Then they have to go to a jumbo loan, which is a totally different interest rate, much higher, where VA loans do not. But when you have a funding fee and it's usually 1 point something percent, it can be pretty high. Now, if you have a 10% disability rating or greater, that funding fee gets waived. So what most veterans who are looking to buy do, yes, we can take your DD 214, which everyone is taught that's the one magical paper you always have to have. But if you go on to your eBenefits website, it's really easy just to pull. It's called a certificate of eligibility. It just says, yes, you're entitled to a VA loan, and the funding fee that the VA charges is waived or not waived. The other big benefit for a VA buyer is that you can get a much larger credit from a seller. So you can get up to 6% of a credit.
That's huge.
That is huge. FHA,
a lot better. It's only 3%, right?
Yeah, I think
For
FHA goes up a little bit more. Conventional is only 3%.
Conventional is 3%. That's what it is. Yeah.
Conventional is 3%, but it only it can go up higher if you're putting 10% down or more. There's different thresholds, but I mean, 6% is huge, and you can buy down the rate more. You can do temporary rate buy downs. You can cover all your closing costs. There's a lot you can do with it. And like I said, because it's backed by the government, you get a lower interest rate. The other big misconception, and this is probably for a lot of agents or anyone in the United States, if you're shopping, is the VA used to have a rule that the seller had to provide something called a cleared pest report, which meant all the rotted wood around the house had to be replaced and painted. And it came at a big cost for a seller. And the VA, along with the Association of Realtors, started to say, well, you're discriminating against veterans if you're not going to accept their offer due to that. But then they started to realize, well, okay, if I have a conventional offer and I have a VA offer and they're the same price, but the VA offer requires me to pay thousands of dollars to change out the rotted wood around my house, well, I'm going to go with the conventional one because they're not requiring that. So the VA changed their policy. This is actually years ago, and I'm still finding some lenders and some real estate agents, but a lot of lenders still don't realize that rule changed until you provide that. It's a document you can pull right from their website and say, look, all I have to do is I provide this form called an NPMA 33. And it basically just says, hey, there's no active pests in the house. Of course, if there are active pests in the house, then they're kind of stuck. They gotta fix that. But who wouldn't? Who's gonna buy a house with active pests? Yeah.
Especially in Florida, you have to have a WDO inspection for most lenders to ensure that there are no termites, because during the summer months we get a lot of termites. So
I'm sure you get a lot of cockroaches too.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. But that it won't damage your house, but nobody likes them either. So
yeah, they'll call that out. If the appraiser sees it, they'll say, hey, there's active something here. Now, VA appraisers, what most people are confused about is they'll say, well, they're a lot more strict. It's not that they're strict. They look for health and safety things, but they will actually check things that a conventional appraiser won't. So they'll look at the roof, and if they see signs that the roof might actually be, because I've seen it where the roof is kind of caving in on parts. I mean, like bent in. A conventional appraiser, so someone following conventional guidelines, they'll see that divot they just won't be looking for it. Whereas a VA appraiser is required to really scan the roof. They will check for serious signs of rotted wood around the house. And the best way I've told a lot of the agents I work with representing the buyer, or that I'll tell the client, is I'll just say, look, if the VA appraiser calls it out, it's because it's serious enough of a health concern that you should probably ask the seller to fix that regardless. So that's just something, you kind of have to play a game. When you're looking at houses, I try to tell people, just keep an eye out for that kind of stuff, because you don't want to get into contract, pay for inspections, pay for an appraisal. Like usually we reimburse people for the appraisal cost, pretty much everyone. But you just don't want to pay for that out of pocket if there's clearly something that they're going to call out. Some things are easy to fix. If there's a deck and there's a hole in the deck that someone could fall through, you could just put a board down and screw in screw down the board, which we've done, so that
Right.
knowing it doesn't look appealing, but it works for the appraiser. So yeah, you do what you can. But
Right. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah. The other thing that is a big thing for the VA loans is you pretty much you can use it multiple times in a year. So I have had clients, and everyone's a little different. I usually look at, hey, how's your job work? How's the rental market? But they'll buy a house pretty much every 6 months with a VA loan. So they'll go buy a house, live in it, move out, buy another one 6 months later with their VA loan again and rent out that property. A lot of times they're trying to do that you can do that with duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes up to 4 units. Duplexes are a little bit different. You can use the income of one of the other sides as long as you can occupy the other side to help offset your qualification numbers. Now, a triplexing, yeah, a
That's
triplex
great
and a
though.
it is. So I've had a lot of clients that are very, maybe they have 100% disability, so it's a set income. The price range of a duplex can tend to be a little bit more, but they can get into markets that are hotter because they can use that other side to help them qualify. You could build up a pretty big portfolio of properties if you do that.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
then it's a no-brainer that buying real estate, renting, and keep continuously buying every 6 months is definitely going to achieve more income in your pocket than the stock market.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because someone did the math recently that he came to me and said, well, I've got $100,000 in my market account. And I usually make about 10% each year. Why would I buy real estate if it's only 3% return, which I think 3% was last year and maybe this year too, but usually it's about 5. But I did the math. I said, okay, if you bought a house for $500,000, that's 20% down. That's 3% on 500,000, not 3% on 100,000. So
Right.
you do the math and it's a lot more, but
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
yeah, no money down is huge.
Mhm.
Well, then, and KT, you're kind of all over the area. What are some of the areas you work in?
Well, I do Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, and pretty much everything in between. So as far south as that, south of Gandy, where MacDill is, and as far north as Newport Richey, all the way to St. Pete and Clearwater.
Okay.
So, mhm.
That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you seeing, and this is one of my questions, are you seeing buyers are able to get, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. What team and brokerage are you with again?
I'm with the Musgrave Group.
Musgrave. Okay. Is that with a
Mhm.
bigger brokerage or is that their own?
We're in an independent brokerage, so
Oh,
we
nice.
kind of
Okay.
do our own thing, yeah,
I
which
like
is
that.
great. Hmm.
To be honest, I think it's always better for buyers too when it's a smaller brokerage too.
Absolutely.
Less
We're
hands in
more
the closet.
hands-on.
Yeah,
So.
that too. Um, are you seeing buyers are able to get credits, price reductions, or sellers to cover closing costs in your market?
Everything is negotiable, but in
Okay.
today's market, yes. Most sellers will agree to that if it helps to get the deal done. And the best thing they can do is just ask. A lot of buyers make the biggest mistake of just
Mhm.
not asking. But the worst answer you'll get is no. You're back at where you started. So, but yeah, as far as closing costs, rate buy downs, obviously repairs with inspections, price reductions, or a combination of all those. It all depends on what the goal is, and if the buyer doesn't want to fork out any money, they can get the closing costs paid for. But with VA, I mean, that's never really an issue. So we work on the price reduction more so.
Gotcha. Okay. Have you ever represented yourself in buying a house?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A couple times.
Right.
Yep.
Did you feel like you were able to negotiate, or did you feel it was thrown off a little bit because it was you buying it and you were excited about the house?
It's very difficult to take the emotion out of it. However, that's kind of what you have to do. You have to
Yeah.
take the emotion out of it and say, hey, this is a transaction, this is what I have and this is what I need, and then
Yeah.
it's either I'm not buying it and I'm moving on to the next, or you're going to help me achieve this price point. So it was mainly for price. I wanted the price low so that it kept, for the long term, as far as with building equity and everything. I already had equity in my pocket when I bought. So,
Oh, I love that.
mhm.
A lot of agents I represent, because you had said, people are afraid to ask, and that's so true. You're the first one to say
Yeah.
that. A
Mhm.
lot of agents, when I'm helping them with a loan and they're representing themselves buying, they'll say, "Oh, all this stuff came up on inspections, but I think I'm just gonna give up my commission to help you, or I'm just gonna use my.
No.
I'm just not gonna. I don't want to bug them or anything." I said, "No, if this was a client, what would you say?" And
Right,
they
right.
have to put themselves back into reality. So even I think a lot
Mhm.
of agents normally do that, but that's good to hear that. Yeah, you've got to remember this is a transaction.
Yeah, that's all you have to think of. This is transaction basis. This is business. This isn't personal, and treat it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then where is my yeah, if someone is not from the area, maybe they're PCSing to the area or just moving to the area, can you describe some of the convenient factors or fun things about the area, restaurants, shopping, activities, stuff like that?
So in Tampa Bay, it's great because no matter your lifestyle, there's something for everyone. So if you're a beach goer, you're a young professional, you're a foodie, you're a runner, you're a military family, there's something in Tampa for everyone. And it's still flourishing. We have the Riverwalk that has been there for
Mm.
a few years now. Gas Works is now being created in Ybor City historic district. We have Sparkman's Wharf, which is an outdoor area, but the Riverwalk has really transformed Tampa. It's been, and they're even creating it more north. So now it's all near the downtown area to Armature Works, but now it's going to be coming up to Seminole Heights as well. So that's going to be a huge transformation for everyone. And also with the Rays moving to Tampa Bay, that's going to be huge too. So.
I love that.
Mhm.
What's the weather out your way right now?
It is hot. So we don't have the four seasons like most states. We really have summer and fall. So it's been summer, but it's just been very hot. So
Gotcha. It's hot where
perfect
I
for the
am.
beach weather. We're
Yeah.
in Tampa. You're only 30 minutes from the beach, so it's great to have that. So
Funny, where I live in Sacramento area of California, people always say, "Oh, I wouldn't want to live there. It's too hot." And I said, "Our summers are over 100-degree weather, and we're nowhere near the beach."
right. We get that breeze. I mean, if you're locked in Gainesville, which is the center of the state, it is so much hotter than it is here because you don't have that beach breeze that you have here.
Yeah. Oh, I could only imagine. Um, my next question. So, what are the biggest mistakes you're seeing most buyers are making in the market right now?
The first step, honestly, is not creating a plan. Not talking to a lender first to determine your price point, to determine your budget. A lender helps you figure out what you can afford. People may say, "Oh, I think I can afford that $500,000 house," but then when they start talking to the lender, it may be reduced to 400. But before they start looking and going out on their own without a consultation first, they're not creating a strategic plan to be able to get them from point A to point B, because that's what we do is we help to guide everyone and advise everyone of the next best steps. And going out and doing on your own without talking to us is the worst thing that they can do. So
Yeah. I like when people reach out to someone like KT and reach out to their agent first before just going on the internet and finding the house, because from my experience, even on the lending side, the process is so much smoother, because then you look at someone like KT and you say, okay, this is my advisor. This is someone who's here to represent me, versus hey, I'm at a house already and this person's opening a door. Clearly they're here to sell the house. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny how that conversation changes, even when they're connected to me. Because I want to know, yeah, you might be, like you said, you might be pre-approved for $500,000, but that may not be the monthly payment you want. That may require you to spend every dollar that's in your bank account, which for most people, they don't want to do that.
Right.
Nor is it recommended. So I think, yeah, definitely talking out a plan. And with that
Mm-hmm.
being said, what's kind of the ideal process to you from start to finish? Someone comes to you and they say, hey, I don't know you, but can you help me? What does that look like?
I love real estate because every single transaction is different. There's, um, somebody may be growing their family, or maybe somebody is looking to downsize because they're recent empty nesters, or relocating from a different state to Florida, a military transfer, or that it may just be somebody's dream that they've had the whole time. But
Mhm.
the exciting thing is, obviously you get to celebrate those milestones with people, but also helping people through their most challenging transitions, whether that be maybe a divorce or a recent inheritance or something of that nature. So really my job is to make people feel comfortable with the navigation from start to finish, because every decision that's made is critical as far as each step of the process. Inspections, for example, going through all the things. Obviously, you prioritize whatever will help to pass the 4 point, which the 4 points of the home, as you know, AC, roof, electrical, plumbing. You want to make sure that it will pass the property will pass a 4 point inspection in order to bind their insurance at the end of the day. But I also get people that come to me that say, oh, well, I don't want to sell because what if I don't find the home that I'd like? What if my home sells first and I don't want to be homeless? I'm like, don't worry, you're not going to be homeless. What we do is we strategize a strategic closing so that we close, at the same day. So that way they have no issue in getting into their next property. So
Yeah. I'm guessing people like that, because I'm glad you brought that up. Do people tend to have different contingencies in place in case they can't find their replacement property?
absolutely. So there's a sale of buyer's contingency rider that we would enforce. Absolutely. So if they can't find something, then they would be. I've had to where they've done a post occupancy. We have post occupancy disclosures. So until they can find that house, absolutely. But I always advise buyers, hey, don't accept an offer until we find something. So they
Oh,
don't have
interesting.
to accept an offer until we find something. But to have it on the market and, have that conversation going while we find something, usually it's just all about timing. So,
I like that. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I find that when people list their house after they've found a place, it can be a lot more chaotic versus
Mhm.
listing it first and then finding the right house.
Definitely. That's the best way about it, especially if you're going to take that equity to buy your next property. So
Gotcha.
bridge
Yeah.
loans can be very costly, as you know.
Oh,
So it's just
yes.
best to do it that way.
I think I talk most people out of doing a bridge loan.
Right. I know. Yeah. If they absolutely have to, but
Yeah. It comes at such a big convenience cost. I think most people, when they reach out to me about it, it's because they want the convenient side of it, but it's temporary financing. It's going to come at kind of a cost. Not my cost, just lenders out
mhm,
there. But
right.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then I did want to ask a question too. Are there a lot of new builds on the market, or how is the market right now in your area? New builds, existing ones, and are they selling pretty quickly too? That's kind of like three questions in one, but
Well, yes, actually, there are a ton of new builds. Obviously, the more that they build, the further north you have to go outside the
mm,
city because originally, it was really Wesley Chapel And now from Wesley Chapel, they're going into Zephyr Hills, which is further east. Takes a little longer to get to from Tampa and also to downtown, but the incentives with new builds are great. Typically, they have where you can, I mean, you could pick your own home essentially, right? But the incentives are about the same, if not better, for new builds right now in Tampa, because they are trying to push them. However, it's just one of those things that you have to go further north. But there are new builds in Tampa, but they're not like a designated subdivision where a developer is buying a plot of land and developing that out. It's in different neighborhoods here or there, whether it's in South Tampa, the Heights, all over. So you have mainly domain homes that are doing that and the private builds. But then when you get into DR Horton, Taylor Morrison, and all that, that's really the builds that go and buy the development and then they parcel those out to different buyers. So
Gotcha.
mhm.
Yeah, I'd say, and the reason why I asked that is I get a lot of, only in Texas, South Carolina, and Florida do I get a lot of veterans using a one-time closed new construction loan for their first or maybe second house, versus most other states, it seems to be that loan is good for people who are kind of building their dream house. But they get an amazing brand new house. It's a loan to buy the land. It has the construction piece in place. If you're using your VA loan for it, you have no monthly payment, whereas most people have an interest only payment during the construction period.
Okay.
And I don't know if I do know Florida, South Carolina, and Texas tend to be a little bit or a lot more lenient on the permitting process. And so it tends to get done a lot faster and it's a lot more cost effective. Whereas other states like where I am, it's going to take over a year and there's a lot more government fees and costs that come in. So we just don't see a lot of veterans using that loan to build their dream house out here.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
there's also other incentives like warranties, and I mean the warranties that they provide are great. Usually they're up to 10 years, and then
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's like 2 years, 10 years structural, and then about 2 years as far as with the mechanics of the labor. And like for example, if there's an AC that just takes a kaput, at least you have 2 years, of a warranty to get that full replacement done.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. The 2 years is great. Out here it's a year, but
Okay.
yeah, I like that. Well, and what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Just call me 813-503-1117.
Awesome.